Nick Lodolo is a shell of his former self, and it's time for the Cincinnati Reds to do something about it.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up? I'm Jeff. He's Steve. And on today's Locked On Reds podcast, a little bit later on, we are going to debate exactly how much the bullpen needs to be relying on TJ Antone. In just a few minutes, we're going to answer the question, should the Reds commit or trade JJ Bleday this season? But we will begin with Nick Lodolo because that start stunk for Nick Lodolo. He got shelled against the New York Mets. And as much as we were hoping for a sweep, and sweeps are hard and this, that, and the other, that game was so far from competitive, it wasn't funny, Steve.
Not funny at all. Listen, there are some real problems with Nick Lodolo right now, and it is not a question of a small sample size. It is not a question of, him having a bump in the road. Let's take his last 8 games started, Jeff. That's a pretty good sample size here in a Major League Baseball season. Last 8 starts, 42 and 2/3 innings pitched, Jeff. He has struck out 32, but he's walked 17, and he has an ERA of 6.12 in those 8 starts. He is getting beat up often, and he's not fooling anybody. The simple fact of the matter is that I know, the opposing hitters know, all of the fans know, everybody that's watching knows he doesn't have an out pitch. He is not going to throw that back foot breaker more than a couple times a game because he's scared of getting another blister and not being able to pitch at all.
Yeah, he, in this most recent outing, threw his sinker 48% of the time. Steve, I remember last year where it was like curveball, like 50%. Now for the season wide, he did a really good job of splitting up his 4 pitches, but it really felt like there were some games where it's just all curveball, a little bit of sinker, a little bit of changeup. It really feels like he's trying to reinvent himself as this sinker ball or changeup guy who sometimes throws a curveball. The problem is the curveball is what makes Nick Lodolo Nick Lodolo. And so for me, my first thought with this is I think the Reds should at least consider what it would be to ask him to get 3 or 6 outs as opposed to 15 to 18 outs. And I get it. He's 1 year away or move from being like an ace level pitcher. At least according to Baseball Reference, he had 4.7 wins above replacement last year. But something has changed in him. And I don't know if it is a complete lack of confidence that throwing that curveball won't end up in another blister right away. I don't know if it's mechanical, whatever it might be, but it feels like it is daunting to him to go out there and pitch 6 innings, to say nothing of a third time through the order. We talk about third time through the order a little bit. We haven't talked about it a whole lot this year, but it's well known throughout Major League Baseball that they don't love asking pitchers to throw a third time through the order. And Nick Lodolo is a great example of this because his slash line against, when he faces the opponent for a third time, is a batting average of 377, an on base of 477, and a slugging percentage against of 771. Guys kill him the third time through the order.
And that goes back to them knowing he doesn't have the out pitch. Look, I hear you talking about maybe he needs to do some time down in the bullpen. Here's the problem. The pitches that he's throwing without that out pitch, I don't see that there's going to be much of a different result down there. I don't think the question is whether or not Nick Lodolo is a starting pitcher versus a relief pitcher. I think the real question right now, that without the out pitch and with the blister problems, the question that we should be asking is Nick Lodolo a major league pitcher or not? Yeah. I think that is the level that this is rising to, and that's the concern for me. Look, I'm not advocating for Nick Lodolo to go out there and do something to hurt himself, but this is what I know. The Nick Lodolo with the OG back foot breaker, the one that you knew was coming, I knew was coming, and the opposing hitter knew was coming and still couldn't help but swing at it as it hit his back foot. That is the pitch that made Nick Lodolo elite. You've said that. You are right. That is the pitch that he needs to be a successful major leaguer. Without that, I don't know how much value he brings to this team. And I think we're going to reach a point where Nick Lodolo has to go out there and just throw that pitch until he can't. Throw that pitch until he gets a blister, and then go sit on the injured list until it goes away, rinse and repeat, and do it all over again. I think some elite level Nick Lodolo is better than no elite level Nick Lodolo. And I'll take him throwing it until he can't versus whatever version of Nick Lodolo this is that's going out there every fifth day and getting his teeth kicked in.
Is this all right? This is an unanswerable question, so I hate asking it, but I feel like we've come to this point with Nick Lodolo. Is it neurological? Like at this point, does he just not trust that he won't end up with a big old blister on his finger after throwing that curveball? You know, I think I said
no, it's not a trust thing. He knows. He knows it. We know. We know if he goes out there and throws that pitch like he has in the past, he's going to get a blister. And unless science and technology, I hope somebody is working on some R&D, some research and development, trying to figure out some kind of something to put on his finger.
Blister tech.
In order, someone could make a lot of money. If somebody out there in the sports world is working on this, they could make oodles of money if they could figure out something that a pitcher could put on their finger to prevent a blister. Absent that, Jeff, he knows when he throws that pitch with any regularity, he's going to get a blister. And I think it's coming down to, do I want to be in the big leagues part of the time and on the injured list throwing that pitch, or do I want to get demoted and go down to Louisville pitching with whatever garbage time stuff it is that I'm throwing right now? That's the question.
Yeah, and it stinks because this is not just a for now problem. This is a for the future and in perpetuity problem, because he is a huge part of the plans of this franchise. And if you're going to start to wonder if you need to write his name on the lists of players that did not pan out and that this franchise was hoping would pan out, man, that's going to stink, because he is a guy that we firmly had written over in the, you can trust this guy column. But he has shown this year to be anything but trustworthy. Like, expanding out a little bit, you talk about this season as a whole. Like, let's even go back to last season and couple in some of the later starts that he had. I went on Fangraphs and I looked at this. The last 13 starts spanning back to last year, Steve, he has pitched 66 innings in those 3 starts, and he has an ERA of 4.86 with a FIP. You know, we talk about fielding independent pitching and how it's kind of a little bit of an added number to the ERA to sort of qualify whether he's lucky or unlucky. A FIP of 5.2.
It's no
it's
good.
Just not insane.
I can count on one hand right now, Jeff, the number of pitchers on this staff that I trust, and I'll have fingers left over on that hand. It's Andrew Abbott, it's Chase Burns, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, because we still got to figure out exactly how long Hunter Green can give the Reds this season once he returns. The good news is rehab outing coming here soon. But like the other part of this too, and I saw some folks suggest this, trading Nick Lodolo. Not going to happen.
For what?
The lowest point of his value. Lowest point of the value.
For a bucket of baseballs? That's in that lane where, you get it. You see the people in the comment section that are like, who's a good
horrible
example?
trade.
Oh, I know a good example.
Brian Hayes.
Your boy, Brian Hayes. He's terrible. Oh my God. He can't hit the broadside of a barn. Trade him. Well, who's trading for that guy? And who would trade you anything for Nick Lodolo right now? Maybe you could get like a change of scenery prospect in return for him, but you wouldn't get much.
Can we trade Nick Krall to somebody, and then Nick Krall would trade for Brian Hayes?
Buddy, that's the only answer.
Well,
remember? Do you remember back in the? You may not remember, but do you remember back in when the Montreal Expos were leaving Montreal and going to DC? There was a whole thing where an owner actually got traded and ended up owning the Florida Marlins, right?
Yes.
Let's trade ourselves a Castellini. That's the trade we need to be working on.
Talk about trading at the lowest point of their value. Anyway, when it comes to Nick Lodolo, I'm worried about him, man. Like, I don't know what the fix is. It feels like he's got to do something different, though, because what he's doing right now just ain't working. But coming up next, we're going to discuss, there's been a lot of great performances from one Jeffrey Joseph Bleday. And he is under team control for multiple seasons. He's also a pretty valuable trade chip, too. All throughout baseball season, you can trade everything Major League Baseball over on Kalshi. In fact, you can get all of the Reds games over on Kalshi. And right now you can trade with the Reds to beat the Yankees, currently trading at 38%. So Friday night, Reds play the Yankees. And if they end up winning and you make a $100 trade on them to win, your payout could be $258.60. All throughout baseball season, there is no house because you're trading against the peers in a live market. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. So for a limited time, if you use the code LOCKED ON when you download the Kalshi app, you can get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi. Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 and up only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. Oh, there's one app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon.
You already live your team each and every day. Elevate it a little bit. You're an everydayer. You're here all the time. Go ad-free. The Everydayer Club gets you ad-free Locked On Reds over in the audio feed. It's also going to get you access to an exclusive Discord server where we're talking Reds in there. Every single host from every single show is talking ball in there. You can go talk some trash. You can, well, maybe not if you're a Reds fan right now, but you can find somebody to talk some trash to.
So a Mets fan.
That's right. Talk trash to a Mets fan. LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer. $5 a month, $50 a year. The link is also down in the show description. All right, Jeff. JJ Bleday has been a bright spot, has been a surprise, has been a star. Currently, as of right now, has about a 1.7 in wins above replacement, according to Baseball Reference. Has been on fire since his call up after spending some time in Louisville. You explain that one if you can. But here's the deal. We're starting to move into trade season. And the question is, do you believe in JJ Bleday enough that you want to extend him, that you want the Reds to keep him around? He's arbitration eligible. The Reds have some team control here. Or do you want to parlay him into something else? I think I know what your answer is, Jeff, so I'm going to go first. I understand that right now JJ Bleday is really doing a thing and is delivering. You look at where he sits right now in OPS plus. He is at about 150, so 50% better than league average. But this is what I know about JJ Bleday. He has been very on again, off again, very up, very down when you look at his season over season performance. In 2023, an OPS plus of 88. In 2024, 120. But then in 2025, he dropped back down to 90. And this season, he's going bonkers with a 150 plus OPS plus. So right. I think you have to parlay that into something in return. I think you take him in what is his best offensive season to date, and you trade him for some parts. You trade him for some pieces to try and reload for next year. I know I'm talking about trading away an outfielder from a team that has been desperate for an outfielder to do exactly what JJ Bleday is doing. Thing is, I don't believe he's going to do it next year. I don't believe that that's the same JJ Bleday that would be in camp next year and be on this roster next year. I say you trade him to the highest bidder at the trade deadline this year and get some young guys that can help your team in 2027, 2028, 2029 with some some sense of certainty. Nobody's a guarantee, but what I know is JJ Bleday has demonstrated he's a roller coaster ride, and I don't think he's going to be that same guy next year.
Steve, what if I told you a guy in 73, let's do it, in 91 plate appearances at Great American Ballpark, slashed 288, 429, 699.
That's good.
And he had 8 home runs, and he actually walked more than he struck out.
I love it. Those are great numbers.
I want to commit to JJ Bleday. And the best thing about committing to him is that you don't have to do anything. He's arbitration eligible for the next 2 years. In fact, committing to him might just be for the next 2 years. And then you trade, or this year and next year, and then you trade him in the offseason after 2017, because you can still get that value for him in his final year of arbitration.
But do you believe he can continue and will continue to do this?
I believe
he hasn't. His career, and not a small sample size, Jeff Carr. We're talking about 448, now 449 big league games, says that he on average is 0.9 in WAR on 162 game average. If you look at his career, he is up, down, and all over the place when it comes to OPS plus. His 162 game average over the course of his career is 105, 5% better than league average. You take the 150 OPS plus that he is right now, you take those 2 years of team control that you just talked about, and you can get some real value in return for a team that's trying to win a division right now, because that ain't the Cincinnati Reds. You can get some real value from a team that feels like they're a piece away from winning the World Series. That ain't the Cincinnati Reds. You can trade him to a team that's willing to overplay to best somebody in their division. That for sure isn't the Cincinnati Reds. So you have an opportunity to really bring in some value for a guy that you didn't give up very much to get.
I do want to see that happen, but I don't know that it will, because I think for all the reasons that you just said, opposing GMs are not going to pay up for it. I think that opposing GMs will look for other outfielders on the market, and there's going to be some guys available from San Francisco, I think, that could fit their bill a little bit better and that they trust a little bit more, because you're right. The back of the baseball card for JJ Bleday says that this is anything but normal and don't get used to it. But I think that there's been some sort of change in the way that he approaches at bats. And I know that, he had that segment on MLB Network whenever they were in New York to face the Mets. And he had that segment talking about how he has changed his stance and he has changed his timing a little bit. And that's really sped up his swing and made him a lot more valuable of a hitter. Do I think that he's going to remain a guy who has a 949 OPS? No. But do I think he's a guy that maintains an OPS above 800? I do. I think that he can be somewhere around that 110 OPS plus range. And we have been begging for an outfielder to do that. And I also think that part of the reason that his wins above replacement have been so rough, obviously have been some of the rough seasons at the dish, trying to make some hits and things like that. But also defensively, he's been playing in outfields out west. And we all know what those outfields are. They're cavernous, they're large. And if you don't have the kind of range that some other guys like Blake Dunn have, then you're not going to get that much when it comes to wins above replacement for your fielding. But when you play left field at Great American Ballpark, that's mitigated. And I think that there's going to be more value to be had as a Cincinnati Red moving forward. I think that the Reds at least get one more year out of him. And ideally, some of the things that all went wrong this year don't go wrong next year. I can't believe we're already here talking about next year. But I think that there's more to this with JJ Bleday as a Cincinnati Red, and I want to see them commit to him at least, and not commit as in like sign him long term. Just don't trade him.
How do you improve this team then? Because there aren't any other parts or pieces to really trade away. They're not going to go be big spenders in the offseason and bring in fancy free agents. The only way you make this team better is to churn the roster a little bit and trade away some. You have to give to get. You have to trade somebody to get somebody. So how are you going to upgrade this team for next year and keep JJ Bleday?
I think what the case here is, I think he's more valuable to the Reds on the Reds than on the trade block, because I just don't know that we're getting that value for him. Like, I know that you trade contracts and things like that a lot of the times, but I think that most general managers are having the same conversation with Nick Krall over the phone as we are having now. When it comes to trading him, they're going, is he going to be that guy for us? We don't really know. So your offer is a little bit too high. We're going to go next tier. And if next tier takes you away from getting somebody who's going to make next year's team better, because that's got to be the goal of this trade deadline. It's not going to be make 2028 or 2029 better. It's going to be make 2027 better. I just don't know that JJ Bleday gets that done on the trade block, and I think he's more valuable here.
Well, there's only one way we're going to find out, and that is to get to the trade deadline. Look, no team wants to be the first team to declare themselves a seller. I think that's the problem out in San Francisco. You mentioned them a few minutes ago. The rumor mill for a month now has said that the Giants are ready to blow it up. They just don't want to be the first team to declare themselves sellers. I think that is what's happening. That is what teams are waiting on. They're waiting for somebody to go first. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out, because this is not a team that is any longer in the conversation to be winning a division. They're in the conversation to, God, can we get it right enough to maybe still be relevant for a wild card? That is your 2026 Cincinnati Reds, ladies and gentlemen. God, that's terrible. I was really hoping for a division win. Speaking of things that have not gone right, Jeff, the pitching staff and this as a whole, both the bullpen and the starters, have not gone right, to the point where TJ Antone has established himself as maybe one of the more reliable guys in this bullpen. So the question you've got to ask yourself, is he reliable, and how much can you pitch him?
Have you ever noticed how the second you search for something online, ads for that exact thing start following you everywhere? Or maybe you're traveling, trying to access a website, stream a game, or watch content you normally use at home, and suddenly you're hit with that message, this content isn't available in your region. That's why more and more people are turning to Proton VPN. Proton VPN is a secure VPN service designed for people who want more privacy, more security, and more control over how they experience the internet. It helps you keep your online activity private, protects your data on public Wi-Fi, and gives you access to the internet in a way that should work, open, secure, and on your terms, the way that you like them. It's easy to get started. Right now, Proton VPN is offering our listeners 70% off a 2-year plan when you go to protonvpn.com/LockedOnMLB. That's PROTONVPN.com/LockedOnMLB for 70% off your 2-year plan. That's protonvpn.com/LockedOnMLB. As you may or may not know, my other job is I manage all of the MLB podcasts here at the Locked On Podcast Network, and sometimes we have multiple openings. We're always trying to grow our network, but when it comes to filling the job of host for insert team here, we rely on Indeed sponsored jobs to help us reach the exact candidates that we actually think fit our shows the best. Because with Indeed sponsored jobs, you can set exact parameters, exact specifications, and listeners of today's show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on today's podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. You can keep the conversation going with us after the show is over on social media. You can follow me at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs over on X or on TikTok. You can follow Steve at S. Offenbaker with 2 Fs over on X. And you can follow the show at Locked On Reds. That's on every social media app out there. All right, Steve, I talked a little bit about TJ Antone on yesterday's show while you were away, and TJ Antone has been really good this year. It's been fun to talk about the story of it all, coming back from a third Tommy John surgery, but his actual production has been quite impressive. He's now down to a 3.06 ERA, and his strikeout to walk ratio, he's almost to 3. It's 2.67. So I'm rounding up a little bit there, but 2.67 strikeouts per walk. And so you love to see those types of numbers, but I'm wondering a little bit, and I kind of teased this at the end of yesterday's show, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, because this Reds bullpen has been bad. There's no real way to sugarcoat it. It's just been bad. And so it's needing any amount of stability and any amount of reliability that it can possibly find, to the point that we're like, dude, it's been 6 appearances for Tony Santillan without a run allowed. Maybe he's back. That's how much we're starving here for some good relief pitching. TJ Antone's been good. The thing of it is, going back to the story of it all, coming back from 3 Tommy Johns, I don't necessarily know that we can throw him in 80 ball games this year.
You can't throw him in that many ball games. Look, they already have one reliever in this bullpen that leads the league in appearances with Brock Burke at 36. So, this is a franchise that has demonstrated time and time again that it's willing to run people out there until their arms quite literally fall off their bodies. And in this case with TJ Antone, there's a real possibility that his arm could literally fall off his body out there on the mound if you don't take care of him. They can't give him the Ian Jabot treatment. They can't give him the Tony Santillan treatment where he's pitching in 80 ball games. They just can't do it. I don't like the amount of times that they are asking him to go more than an inning. I don't like the fact that they'll pitch him on back-to-back days right now. I understand they're saying that he's a big league pitcher and Tito's going to use the guys that he's got down there, but you have to be careful. I don't count TJ Antone amongst the pitchers that I can believe in, that I feel are reliable, just from a standpoint of I'm worried if he's going to get hurt again. I believe in what he's doing when he's out there right now, but I don't believe that you can rely on him to be a guy that you're running out there every other day or 4 times a week and not run the risk of something happening to him. So when we talk about, well, who can be the closer, who can be the high leverage back into the bullpen guys, that's why I never include him in that conversation, because I just don't know that he can hold up to it. And if his arm were to go again, that would be it. You can't expect that a guy's going to go and have a 4th Tommy John surgery and battle his way back. They need to bring him along slowly. Now, if he can make it through this season and you limit what you're doing with him and he makes it through this season healthy, heading into next year, he'd be a guy I would talk about as somebody that you could believe in, somebody that you could consider to be reliable. Right now, though, they really need to slow their roll with how they're using him and to get him to a point to be that guy, to give him the opportunity to be that guy. You have to be careful now. And I don't think they're being careful enough.
I think it's interesting because I hear the counterpoints to this of like, all right, well, if you're not using TJ Antone, who are you using? I say the same thing that I would say about Nick Lodolo. This is not so much about the team as it is about the individual. We're not seeing the best Nick Lodolo, and we know that TJ Antone has this crazy injury history. Steve's already thrown 17 games so far this season. Do you know the career high for most games in a season that he has pitched?
I don't know it without looking, but I think we're probably getting really close to his career high in games.
We are. In 2021, he threw 23 ball games. Since 2021, mind you, we are talking about a long period of time, he had thrown 9 ball games before this season. But he's not thrown in his career. He's only thrown 62 games. Last year, Tony Santillan threw 18 more games in one season than TJ Antone has in his career. And Emilio Pagan pitched in more ball games last year than TJ Antone has in his career. So I am very excited for what I have seen from him. And I think I even said that, like, right now, the trustworthiness for right now is that he is right up there to top. The issue is going forward. How much can you trust that he is going to be healthy for much longer? Because, like I said, that's 6 games. He could pitch 6 games between now and the All-Star break, and I don't think anybody would be surprised. He could pitch 6 games between now and next week. I don't think anybody would be surprised. And then he would tie his career high for most games pitched in a single year. And he's doing that a year after he recovered from his 3rd Tommy John surgery. There's a novelty to that. There's an awesomeness to that. There's got to be an alarm bell going off in Terry Francona's head right now that says, we are coming up on an interesting point here with TJ Antone. And maybe it is that TJ has come to him and he said, just, throw me until you can't throw me no more. But how long is that going to?
Yeah, he has to be running out of games. I mean, I agree with you. Even if you're super careful with him, I can't see getting to more than 40 appearances on the season. 30 feels right. You get to 40. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's got to be like the high limit of what he could do.
Because I think, all right, so with the guys out in the bullpen right now, and with the guys coming back, you're eventually going to get Pierce Johnson back. You're eventually going to get Emilio Pagan back. I don't think they still have not said that they've shut down Graham Ashcraft for the rest of the season, but I don't think we're getting them back. But I know that we're getting those other two guys back. I think once they come back, sure, you can keep TJ Antone at the end of the bullpen, but you need to not throw him near as often as you are. And I think that they've got to be relying more on guys like Chase Petty. And as much as I hate to say it, they've got to figure out what they've got in Zach Maxwell or Luis May or Connor Phillips or guys like that. Because if you know what you know at the end of this season, then you can go out this offseason and replenish the bullpen and not have to count on those guys. But it feels like counting on TJ Antone every other day out. And look, that's the annoying part of this, because I want to say, yes, he is going to be fine the rest of this season. And I want to have all the positivity in the world about this. But I feel like there's a lot of times, and I think this is a perfect example, where the Reds manage something based on what they want to happen, not what is most likely to happen. And what is most likely to happen here is that he is not going to give you 50 to 60 ball games.
If you pitch him once a week for the remainder of the season, it gets him to 32 appearances.
Okay. I don't know if that makes him effective, though. I think you probably run down the effectiveness, but yeah. That's the other thing, because then he becomes a novelty.
Limiting, right. Yeah. Right. Then it's back to the novelty act. Yeah. It's a tough question. And I really didn't think we'd find ourselves here. 17 ball games. That's 17 more than I realistically thought he was going to get this year when we talked about this bullpen at the beginning of the season. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, Jeff. And that is probably a good spot to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thanks as always for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day, folks. Programming note, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We are going to be live. We are going to be taking your questions and comments, talking a little Reds baseball with you. Again, that is this Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you click subscribe. Make sure you click that notification bell so you don't miss any of the great stuff we've got coming your way, as well as the postcast with Tim Daniel live after each and every Red game all season long. For the audio folks, we want you to go check out Locked On MLB. 3 shows over there cooking in that feed. Back to the bullpen with former Reds reliever Mike Stanton. Sully's got you covered with Locked On MLB, covering Major League Baseball from a national perspective. And the folks at MLB Game Night are watching every single game, every single night, so that you don't have to. For the video folks, we're going to send you over to Locked On's first ever 24/7 national YouTube channel, where all of the experts of the Locked On network are talking ball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Jeff and I will be back in your feeds Friday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, gathering up all the news, the notes, the rumors, the reports, and the information to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
You just want to trade JJ Bleday because his first name is Jeff.
The more Jeffs I can get out of here, the better.